Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. My name is Sarah, and today my co-host Carrie Bennett and I are going to be making these complex topics of quantum biology and circadian biology understandable to the everyday person. Thank you so much for tuning in. We ask that if you are listening on audio only, that you take a moment to leave us up to a 5-star review. And if you're on YouTube, leave us a like, leave us a comment. It will help to get the show out to more people. And before we jump into today's topic, just a quick reminder to head down to the show notes and check out my free resources as well as Carrie's free resources. We also do have courses on a variety of topics. If you are hoping to dive deeper, Carrie and I both have practitioner courses available as well for anyone who wants to begin to bring these topics to their clients and help them to implement these strategies into their daily lives. So check those out. We also have a co-taught course called Quantum Fertility that is available that allows people and practitioners to work on their fertility using these principles of quantum biology and circadian biology. Again, thank you so much for listening or watching today's show, whichever one you are doing. And let's go ahead and jump into it now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. It's October 1st, the day here that we're recording. So this vitamin D conversation keeps coming up over and over again. So we're going to talk about that today, right, Carrie?
Yeah. I think people, it's in everyone's awareness that, okay, vitamin D is a thing I need to be concerned with going into winter. And I know you've just launched your app, and it's this idea that you have a D tracker on your app. And it's like people are a little confused as to why they can't add additional sun sessions with their vitamin D. And it's like, I'm of the opinion that, number one, it's very difficult to quantify vitamin D, as you are very well aware. And and I believe your app is bringing just awareness to the fact that sunlight makes vitamin D through the skin, which I love. Except I think people just obsess about it. And when you understand how vitamin D works, and thankfully you had a conversation with Jim, and I had an email exchange with Jim Stevenson over the weekend about the vitamin D picture is both more complex and more simple, and just we're not getting taught any of the story when it comes to what we need to focus on. And then we can talk about the melatonin switch, which I talked about that, I know, before, and in my prep for winter challenge. But let's go into this, because And this became mainstream awareness, I think, during COVID, right? Because there were studies that showed that if someone comes in with a certain serum vitamin D level, they're less likely to die or have complications. I mean, so we understand that vitamin D plays a role in the body. We're not saying it doesn't,
right?
But at the same time, perhaps elevated levels of vitamin D are indicative of the robustness of a response in the body, as opposed to needing to supplement artificially to keep your serum vitamin D elevated to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think that the whole vitamin D conversation is super, super confusing. And there's, even in the alternative health world, you and I are both kind of on the same page, where we don't recommend vitamin D supplementation. And just a disclaimer, nothing on this podcast is medical advice. This is just Carrie and I chatting, informational purposes only. Disclaimer.
If it works for you, we're not judging that, right? But we just want to bring a different discussion.
Right, exactly. And I did have Jim on. I'm not sure when that episode will go out on evolving wellness, but it will soon. And maybe you and I can even have him here, because you always bring out different facets of people than I do. So maybe we can even bring him on if there's enough interest. People can leave a comment and let us know. But essentially, you and I got started in this whole conversation, and we'll go through it in this episode, because my app the Android version is out now. I'm still waiting for Apple to approve it. So if you are wanting my new app, it's called the My Circadian app, all one word, and it'll say Sarah Kleiner Wellness under it in the Google Play Store. And I've already my developer has been getting emails from people who've downloaded it and say, there's no way for me to go back in and track vitamin D sessions that I did sans the timer. So I was in the sun twice today, and I want to log that second time so I can estimate my vitamin D levels. And, my developer's like, oh, we can add that feature in if you want. And I'm like, but it's not helpful. It's not useful, because there is no way to quantify your vitamin D levels through how much time you're spending outside, person to person. There's like there's so many different factors that impact what your blood level is going to be. The pure purpose of what I have done with my app is to give someone a gauge based on Fitzpatrick skin type, BMI, UV index, to say, hey, this is a good amount of time for you to stay out in the sun at this high UV index. We're going to give you a little alert to say, time to come inside. There's a chance that you're going to have a high probability of overdoing it after a certain time threshold. Right. And that'll, help you it will help you to synthesize vitamin D, but how much you're going to synthesize, you can't quantify that in an app because it's so multifaceted. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's super, that's exactly it. And so the thing is that the key phrase there is, yes, you're going to make vitamin D through the skin. And we're going to talk about not only making vitamin D that gets potentially tries to get measured in the blood, but we're going to talk about the dozens of metabolites. that are made as well. And we're also going to talk about the fact that yes, you're making it through the skin, but that is not necessarily going to be reflected in that serum vitamin D marker,
right?
Because the body doesn't technically need, if it has storage depots all throughout the body for vitamin D, which it does in a fat soluble and water soluble form, which we're going to talk about.
Yes.
If the body has those storage depots for it, then it doesn't need to maintain high levels in the blood. So the number of people who say, oh, I sunbathed all day long or all summer long, and my vitamin D when I got it tested was 32. And I'm like, that's fine, because you put in the work for your body to build up its stores and the many different metabolites that are created through sunlight exposure through the skin for your body then to have the ability to utilize it if it's needed in the winter. And it is a secondary, it's the second line of defense in the winter. Mm-hmm. Melatonin, I truly believe is the first. And so if your melatonin is adequate, your vitamin D status matters less.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And let me go ahead and pull up this chart. This is, I went over this with my podcast with Jim, but this is all of these vitamin D metabolites. I think this is your chart, Carrie.
No, I think Jim, I might have actually pulled that from Jim. Jim is I'm certain Jim has seen or utilized this chart well before I ever saw it, because he's been researching this for longer than me. So,
yeah. So what we got, vitamin D3 right here. Yeah. Boom. Okay. But this is all the other stuff. And Jim was telling me this area over here under the PD, these are cancer prevention. These are and you can't get that from a D3 supplement. It's not going to do the same thing as what UVB does when we synthesize all these different metabolites, correct?
Yeah, this is a fabulous chart. So let's orient people. So as you said, there's towards the bottom left, you'll see D3. And so that's ultimately, that's pre-D3, right? Mm-hmm. You'll see D3 at the bottom there. That's the one, right? That's the one that really truly is the body's, that's what really gets tested, right? That's what typically gets tested in the blood. Mm-hmm. Is like, okay, what is my D status? Mm-hmm. And what you'll see is that in order to arrive at D3, we have to first convert cholesterol, which is 7-DHC,
here, yeah,
right up there, closer to that little sun logo, into pre-D3. Yeah. And this is where the magic of sunlight takes place. Because if I were consuming supplemental D, it would only populate that D3 part right there. Whereas if I make it through sunlight, I make pre-D3, which can actually be interconverted into all forms of D, the cancer protective ones that you alluded to, into what are called lumasterols, which the way that I view lumasterols are a metabolite of D that can easily get converted back into pre-D3 in low level light. So that's why I also think that UV light in the winter, even if you don't have UVB, I think UVA exposure can stimulate this. And we're going to start to learn more and more about that in the L pathway right here is where you see L. And then the pre-D3 can become all of the different metabolites of D. So look at that. If you go to D3, the very, very bottom, Sarah, that's whole stack right here. That whole stack that requires some conversion happening through the cytochrome P enzyme system. But what practitioner is testing all of these?
None. Nobody is. They don't even have a test available that I'm aware of.
Not even in a clinical laboratory setting are all of these run. Like, yes, I've seen different sterile markers tested, or yes, I've seen different of the P markers for the PD markers for cancer prevention, but like, there's not one test that's testing all of this.
Right.
And some of these are only showing fat soluble versions.
Right.
And what we now know, and Jim has very beautifully delineated, if you're curious at all about this perspective, join his Substack. It's free. And his I was just telling Sarah before we hit record, his blogs are like dissertations. So like
he has a PhD.
Yes.
Because a lot of people will kind of knock on him and say he's not a doctor.
Oh no. I mean, yeah, what Jim is so well versed in vitamin D research across all the different. For something very fascinating, my very first conversation I ever had with Jim was learning this idea that if you are getting an NIH grant, so a government grant for researching vitamin D in relation to cancer versus relation to autoimmune disease so in relation to different disease diagnoses, you have to refer to these. Sometimes you have to refer to these enzyme systems differently. Like there's no common language. Right. And part of me thinks that's done to not start for people not to connect these dots, and for different research scientists in different areas not to say, what are you seeing? What are you seeing? It's like, it's very siloed. Academia is very siloed. And so so what I love about what Jim and his research into vitamin D is that he reads all of it from like the 1920s onward, right? Like he goes way, way back into the literature and presents such a lovely different perspective that is very research-based, but also very clear that what we're being taught about vitamin D these days is myopic, inaccurate, and really, truly, I believe, is for the profit of the D3 supplement industry, because the people are still villainizing the sun, right? You know, so I mean,
there was like this Harvard paper that came out and basically said that D3 was equivalent to sun exposure. I was like, really? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like,
well, it's not even close, because what Jim was saying was, so Jim and I are looking for more research about how the sun interacts with steroid hormones and sterols. And so I was talking with him about a concept of photolysis, which is literally how photonic energy, right? And lysis means break, how light energy can break bonds to change molecules into different metabolites. And so he was talking with me about sulfation, which is sulfating things like vitamin D3 sulfate or DHEA sulfate.
DHEA sulfate,
Some of that happening through the skin, some of it happening, and a lot of it actually happening in the liver, changing something from fat soluble to water soluble. So there's so much to this picture that cannot be obtained from taking a D3 supplement. And so the idea that vitamin D tests low in people with chronic disease states in the winter, potentially they didn't get the vitamin D through the skin in the first place.
Right.
And they sure as heck aren't blocking artificial light to maximize melatonin, which is our primary metabolite. It's our primary, quote unquote, immune system support metabolite or immune system support nutrient in the winter. And that research has been done, right? Where melatonin interacts with the vitamin D receptor to exert the same things, the same beneficial health protective response that vitamin D does in the summer. It only makes sense from a seasonal perspective. If I can't make it through my skin, if literally from now until end of March, I can't make vitamin D, why would I need to supplement copious amounts of it to somehow to confer some sort of a protective benefit?
Right.
So it just didn't make sense.
You should be building the tan also in the summer, the melanin, because I just listened to the podcast you did with Alec, which was brilliant. I loved it.
Thank you.
Yes,
it was such a fun chat. I mean, he's a phenomenal podcast host. You know, he does a great job. So kudos to him on that.
He does. Yeah. But you guys, just awesome conversation, and the whole bit about melanin and how losing your tan over winter can kind of be like a little bit of a detoxification process. I thought that was pretty fascinating too. So it's not just like you don't make any melanin from taking D3. Like that's a whole other
Mm. Well,
you
melanin is free energy, right? Like
right.
if you're still not getting sunlight on the skin, you're not vasodilating your blood vessels for improved blood flow,
Nitric
right? So
oxide. Yeah.
cardiovascular disease, right? You're not asking your body to put down more melanin. Melanin gives the body free energy. I want
Yes.
people to realize this, right? This is so cool, is that melanin and all molecules in our body are surrounded by water.
Mm-hmm.
And the melanin, so when sunlight strikes the melanin in our skin, it splits a water molecule.
Mm-hmm.
That water splitting is the first step in plants for photosynthesis, right? Plants capture light and split water to kickstart photosynthesis. We capture light in melanin, split water, and that water becomes molecular hydrogen. And we've
Yes.
talked all about molecular hydrogen and its ability to donate its charge to support to optimize mitochondrial health, to lower inflammation, to, so many things. We've talked about a lot about molecular
Yeah.
hydrogen.
Yeah.
And so I want people to realize that we can do that through our skin as well.
Yes.
And so this continuous narrative of sunlight is bad, sunlight's evil, avoid the ultraviolet light, avoid it, avoid it, avoid it. You can take it through a pill and get all the benefits is just not accurate at all.
And then we get that expansion of the exclusion zone when exposed to the infrared that's available in sun,
Yeah, just that.
which is that's a whole other, I mean, and you can get that all winter long too. That's not exclusive to
Yeah.
summertime when there's only UVB available. And so
Mhm.
it just brings me back to like the app that I created is not so you can understand how much vitamin D you're making. It is so that you can adjust your lifestyle to have an optimal light environment. That is why I have a lux meter. So you can see, am I in an evening environment that's under 10 lux? Because that's what I
Okay.
need, not only to block the blue light, but I need dim, under
Yes.
10 lux in order for my pineal melatonin to secrete appropriately. I need 3 hours of that. Am I indoors behind glass versus being outside and the lux version there? And understanding these different points of the day to go outside, understanding if there is UVB available, I want to go and do that without overdoing it, because
Mhm.
you can overdo it, and somebody with that's a very light skin does need to be more cautious, and then they do need to be outside in the early morning at the sunrise and UVA so they can precondition the skin and make all those different neuropeptides, neurohormones, and chemicals in the skin that help you to absorb sunlight better and are skin protective. And so people just get like vitamin D, like so myopic about the sun. They don't really understand like how to use it appropriately or the different health benefits of it. And so
Right.
that's, yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly it. It's not a vitamin D tracker app. It is
No.
a reestablish a healthy relationship with light in all of its capacities and darkness, right? In all of those
Yes.
capacities, which is why I love it. It's so comprehensive. I just had the Lux meter out on my private Q&A today because, I was explaining in the winter, yes, it's dark, it's gray, but go outside and the lux is going to be so much greater. And I just sitting here, it's cloudy outside right now, so very similar to winter for me, but indoors sitting like this, kind of pulling myself away, I was at like, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 lux. It was
Right.
dim.
Right.
I flipped the phone around and I got closer to the window and it was still only 200 to 300. Going outside, over 1,000 easily, right when right when you just barely go outside. And then if I would actually probably step into full direct light. I mean, so that's the thing, the difference between why you feel tired and groggy all winter long.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it has to do with the lack of brightness
Mm-hmm.
in your interior environment and simply going outside regularly. So your app is so cool for just kind of changing your awareness and relationship with light.
Right. Right. And then eventually maybe you won't even need to use the app because you can, which obviously I want everyone to use it long term, but like honestly, the goal of is not for you to be chained to an app, but for you to understand light, darkness, bright, times to go outside. And I haven't used the D-Minder app, or I use the D-Timer on my app just to play with it to make sure it works. But I don't need that to gauge my time in the sun. I can tell when it's time to go in. Like I'm
Yes.
like, ooh, skin's getting a little warm, a little pink. I'm feeling like I need to go inside, and I can trust my intuition. I don't burn. I tan. Like I haven't had a burn. I did get burned when I was pregnant and I was laying on the beach with my sister and we just were out there for too long being idiots, but that's the only time I can remember even being burned since starting this lifestyle, is just because I was laying on the beach and it felt so good. And I just was being a dumb.
No, yeah, it's okay. That's a
Yeah.
trade-off for some alone time with sister on the beach,
Right.
right? It's like-
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's exactly it. And so with this whole vitamin D thing, it's like no app will ever tell you all your metabolites.
No.
Nor in the winter do you need to be as obsessed with your vitamin D levels
Mm-mm.
as most people are, because of the
Mm-mm.
fact that we should all the metabolites, but melatonin is what reigns in the winter because we have
Mhm.
more darkness.
So, Carrie, I don't know about you, but I'm doing a couple little trips this summer. And what is the one thing that you're definitely going to be bringing with you on your packing list?
I love portable red light therapy for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Exactly. You can't underestimate, honestly, what red light therapy can quote unquote treat or support when you're away, from like eating something that disagrees with you to like your kid
Mm.
falls and scrapes the knee and you want to do a little extra repair and support, to a headache, to an earache, to like you name it. And just then as general maintenance, right? Or like, let's say you're at the beach, you want to precondition your skin, right? All these things. And
Or you're traveling on an airplane and you want to kind of offset some of that mitochondrial damage that's going to naturally happen from being in a plane. Like I know Dr. Sarah brings her this is our Bond Charge Mini, and you can use the code Quantum Pod to save on yours. But I know she will just kind of put it with thyroid, right? Because when you're in an airplane, you are exposed to high levels of non-native EMF, and a little panel could be a great way to support your mitochondria to make more exclusion zone water so that there's a little bit of a protective barrier when you're in those high stress environments, right?
Exactly. And then also in a pinch, I'll use that, like, let's say in a hotel room or something, to turn on a light if I need to, right? Right. It's just in a pinch, it's a really good way, just kind of almost like act as a flashlight or illuminate the space at night, if you need to for some reason. So I have found so many uses for that portable red light therapy.
Yep. It's awesome. So if you are interested in one of these, you can use the code Quantum Pod. This is by Bond Charge. They are sponsoring the podcast. We really appreciate that. And check them out. There's a link down in the show notes.
Another interesting thing to this whole conversation with Jim, which always puzzled me, because it was like, why is there no vitamin D in breast milk?
Yes.
It's not true. There is vitamin D, but as I said before, there's a water-soluble form and a fat-soluble. And research has become obsessed with the fat-soluble form of vitamin D. And that's all they're tracking these days when they're looking for markers and things. And does this intervention shift vitamin D? And that's all that they're looking at. They're not looking at the water-soluble. Breast milk is full of water-soluble vitamin D and its metabolites. So it makes perfect sense then, right? That of course there's a way that nature figured out how to get an essential nutrient to a baby. Plus, I said many times before to my private communities, like, can my baby go into the sun? Your baby can go into the sun. And if anything, babies adapt so much faster. I've seen tiny, fair-haired, blue-eyed babies get just so beautifully exposed to the sun and adapt very quickly so that they can tolerate it without burning at all.
Right.
So, I'm sure you did that with James, I'm certain.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was born in October. He'll be 2 actually on Saturday, which is just like wild to me.
Oh, wild.
Yeah, he's hilarious, copying everything I say now, which is like a little bit wild. I have to be careful. But I remember going to his first, because we do have a standard pediatrician on staff. I think that there is some value in that, even though we do not do any of the medical interventions. There's one pediatrician in town that kind of all the underground moms all know of, and we all go see the same one because she doesn't force us to do certain medical interventions, if you can read between the lines on that. And so we do have one. I do think there can be some value in a paper trail and just having one, right? Even though I do everything as natural as I can. And it was one of the first appointments that we were on. She's like, "Oh, you're exclusively breastfeeding. You've got to start him on a vitamin D supplement if you're exclusively breastfeeding." My formula moms don't have to worry about that because they add vitamin D to the formula. And so we get home, my husband's like, "Oh, did you buy any vitamin D for James?" I'm like, "Oh, why would I do that?" And I'm still laying out in the sun. I'm like, "Do you see how tan I am? Do you see like how much I've been going out in the sun?" Like, he doesn't need me to give him little droplets of vitamin D as a baby. I'm not doing that. It doesn't, how does that make any sense at all? Like, it makes zero sense to me. And then Jim has, put together this really amazing dissertation on the water soluble form of D that is available to babies through breast milk. And so it never made sense to me. It was just one of those things I was like, not doing that,
Exactly. It's just that's the whole thing. It's like, we just have to start. It's like, if something doesn't make sense, or if something doesn't sit right with you, or if it's like, wait, that doesn't seem like how nature would, we've said this before, trust your intuition and then dig deeper if you want to, and then obviously Jim's a great resource for this, but I don't know, this, because what we say, I hate to say it, is controversial even in the alternative
world. Everyone's like, and take your vitamin D with K2 and magnesium. I'm like, still no, because that's what we'll get. I'm sure. I already did the interview I did with Jim. I'm like, let's start the conversation off and just say why adding K2 and why adding magnesium doesn't fix this situation. And so we went into that with the podcast that he and I did, because I was like, as soon as I post this, that's going to be the first thing people, take it with K2 and magnesium. That's the only problem. Not the only problem.
Well, no, because I hope that people realize, then look at look at all the other metabolites that you're missing out on.
Right. That's why we showed that chart first thing. And I showed the chart in the interview with Jim, is because like we said, those cancer protective metabolites, you can't get that in the D3 supplement. And so all of these correlative studies, which there can be some value in looking at correlative data, absolutely.
Sure.
But in this condition, it seems that the correlative data has been skewed in a way to continue to push the D3 supplement industry, which is the supplement industry is getting to be as big as a pharmaceutical industry. And there's probably there's a lot of money there, follow the money. Always.
You did. I mean, was that your first time with Jim, talking with Jim, or was that your second time with Jim?
Second time. I talked with him when I was pregnant, and that video has over like 10,000 views. And there was a lot of cognitive dissonance in the comments. Like, a lot of people were very upset by that video.
Yeah. It is what it is, right? I get it when we're approached with something that goes completely against anything that we hold strong and true. And like, we've done our research on this. It's like, well, I know, but I'm certain he went into, so if anyone wants to know the full story, Jim really lays out also the history of the vitamin D industry, and how one particular researcher, I'm not going to name him, but he's really responsible for the increase in the need to make the threshold for vitamin D deficiency almost triple what it originally was. And now he's also making tons of money on vitamin D3 supplements, so it's like, and I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm not saying he had nefarious intentions at all. Maybe he just did not have all the research needed to support the correct advice, basically, from his perspective, and so go listen to that first one with Jim. I'm certain this other one with Jim that you did is going to be phenomenal, and go to his blog or his Substack, and dive in. And so, here's the thing too. I think Jim does a very good job of delineating the fact that this is a hormone, a version of a hormone, a steroidal based hormone.
Exactly.
So the same thing that someone might feel good short-term on prednisone.
Steroids,
but long-term, they're a dysregulatory disaster. I see that a lot. Like, some people will say that a lot. It's like, oh yeah. And this is in my comments. I know when you talk about like protein, I know your stuff goes just like wild. And mine, when I talk about D3 supplements, right?
If I was to do it, I see I don't have the stomach for it.
I just, me, I just ignore. But like, you'll hear from both ends of the equation.
Always.
And a lot
I'm taking it and I feel so much better. Explain that.
That's fine. Then that's fine, because it does have steroidal effects, and maybe your body needs that. But then I also have people who said, I took it at first, and at first it made my lupus better, and then it made my lupus a disaster. Worse. Right. So that's very similar to what you get with prednisone. It's like, yes, at first it started to make my rheumatoid arthritis feel better. And now I've got iatrogenic diabetes and weight gain and leptin resistance. And, so just inform yourself and just be aware. I don't know. It's more than just a vitamin. It really has hormonal actions in the body, and it's It's why you and I are hesitant to broadly recommend everyone taking hormones, right? Because we don't
I
recommend it at
know
all.
we're gonna have to do a hormone episode at some point because I'm just getting blasted over the topic. But it's like neither of us are like fully into menopause, and it's like that. Yeah,
we can't prescribe a darn
we.
hormone.
Mm-mm,
So
mm-mm,
it's like we can ever recommend it for our clients. I mean, we can't. Yet while we're not fully in menopause, my cycle is still going strong. I don't have any perimenopausal symptoms right now. I mean, I'm only 43. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just, it's a conversation we can have, but I think it would come from our observations working with clients who have gone the route of supplementing in hormones.
HRT. Yeah.
HRT.
Yeah. And I have some thoughts on it. Definitely. Definitely. And then going through IVF, I mean, I was injecting the hell out of myself with hormones for like 2-3 months straight.
Right.
So which I highly do not recommend. But it's just multifaceted. Like we always think, like, just with this whole vitamin D conversation, we think we put something into the body and then we get something out, and it just doesn't work that way.
It's the same thing with minerals. It's the same thing with anything. Whenever, if anyone wants to kind of understand these complex interactions, pull up a mineral chart that shows that the synergistic and antagonistic relationships between the minerals, and you'll see, like, wow, magnesium interacts with these 7 ones, but these ones can antagonize magnesium. And these ones,
if you take too much magnesium, you can push down your calcium. If you take too much zinc, you can push down your copper, and vice versa. It's like we just think, I'm low in this, so I'm going to take this. And then it's like, then you just affected all this other stuff because, and the fat soluble vitamins are the same way, like A, D, E, and K. You can take too much vitamin A and push down your vitamin D. Like like there's a synergistic relationship for everything in the body. And same thing with progesterone and estrogen. Like there's so many layers to it. And then there's bioindividuality. There's the easy water, and the fact that
we're going to talk about water. I'm going to get next one of the episodes after I get back from the water conference. It's going to be everything I learned at the water conference, right? That'd be so much fun. Yeah,
we definitely have to.
We haven't talked water, at least not enough for my liking recently.
I was thinking about that today too, that we should talk about water, that we should talk about our routines and our concoctions, and then all this other stuff in the body of quote unquote receptor sites and water and
we'll start getting people to call it resonant energy transfer and not receptor sites, hopefully.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Or just tuning fork effect, right? That might be easier.
So. I know. We really got to talk to Eileen. We've got to get her.
Yeah. We have to get Alec to give us hook us up. I'd love to pick her brain.
Me too.
She's just so awesome. So
yeah, I agree. One thing I know we're going to get asked, I know we got to wrap soon, is about vitamin D lamps, tanning. And I've got, I was playing with it. I'll show you guys before we started chatting.
Oh, is that your UVB red light one?
Yeah. Chris sent it to me. It's got everything. It's got infrared, red, UVA, and UVB. Cool. But that's it. So I'm like screaming.
Cute pants, by the way.
I know, I'm wearing shorts because I was trying to lay out, but the sun keeps going in. He has it set so you can only use UVA and UVB for a minute at a time. Because Sarah had it down here. Dr. Pugh had it down here, and I was like, "Are you going to steal that and take it back to the UK?" She was using it constantly.
Can you imagine bringing that through security and be like, what?
She took the chroma through security.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And she said, they were like, ma'am, what is this contraption? What? They almost didn't let her through security with the chroma. I mean, it looks insane. It's got all these tubes and stuff.
It looks like a battery or something. Yeah, something weird.
It looks bizarre, but yeah, that would have been even more interesting. But the reason why Chris has it set, Chris from EMR Tech, and I think my code there is SarahK20, if anyone wants to look at these. and you got to use caution with these, but he has it set so you can only use UVA and UVB for a minute at a time. You have to keep like resetting it because you have to be really cautious with these types of bulbs because you can overdo it. You can burn yourself.
Totally.
And it's not, it's not going to be the same as just going out in the sun. And so
this brings up a very interesting conversation I had with a woman in my community whose daughter-in-law has black skin, and she's highly melanated, and was like, what do I explain? Like, how do I get her to realize that she needs to go out in the sun? And what about in the winter? And I've actually used, for black and brown people, I've used supportive UV strategies. Also for people who don't have, they're more of a lighter Fitzpatrick skin type, I've utilized supportive UV strategies in the winter, even if that UV isn't present in your environment. Some people literally need that more intense ultraviolet exposure. Some of it has to do with the amount of melanin in your skin. Some of it has to do with just maybe what symptoms you're experiencing. But that there are therapeutic ways to utilize the light. Not necessarily from the sun where I live, but utilize light in the winter in conjunction with all the other stuff as well. Right. And so it's not like, and that's not the one thing I'm not looking at it to say, oh, their vitamin D levels need to test.
It's the light that you're deficient in.
Exactly. Some people's skin, their mitochondria, they need that more intense light source that we're not getting living indoors these days, or going outside in the gray, less
UV available. And like we just had a hurricane here.
And then we had prayers for all those people impacted. I mean, it just looks devastating.
Terrible. We were very, very lucky here. Very lucky here that we didn't get hardly any issues. Got lost internet for a day. I mean, but parts of the city did get completely flooded here. It was bad.
Wow.
But we have had like days and days of clouds. And then the first day that it was supposed to be sunny was yesterday. And I go outside and it smells like bleach because there was a huge chemical plant explosion.
Was that by you?
Yes.
How far away was that?
20 miles from my house.
But you could see it.
I stepped outside and my eyes started burning. And then my friend Erin, the Natural Minded Mama, she sent me this Facebook post that one of the newscasters did. And it was like, well, you might feel a little irritated, but it's okay. It's not dangerous. There's just an irritation level. In the comments, people are like, why have I been throwing up? Why is my baby covered in a rash? And then Erin writes, it's giving safe and effective. So yesterday was like,
Erin.
Air conditioners off, air purifiers going on full blast. I'm not trying to step outside in that. And so today I was just like, man, I just don't really feel great. And it's cloudy again. And so that's why I pulled out the Krypton and I think I did 3 minutes of UVA, UVB with red and infrared before we got on here. And I was like, oh, and I have my Vogel crystal. And I was like, okay, now
we need to play around with this a little bit more before we do an episode on that.
People are really asking for a
weird
Vogel
people out. Are they asking for that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
In my group, they are. They're like, can you talk more about the Vogel crystals? And we want to know more.
Totally. So. Oh yeah. In our private community, in our private communities where I at least am way more forthcoming with stuff. Because YouTube comments be nasty sometimes.
Girl, I can't even. Like, if you're going to send a nasty comment, you're just going to get blocked and deleted. I'm sorry. If it even looks suspicious, you're out. Like, I don't have the energy for it.
Yeah, I know. I know. And really quickly.
Yeah.
If you truly don't like what we're saying, I would be so open to someone else starting a YouTube channel and putting out content that really supports what your beliefs and your thought process, your research is. Even that's what the beauty of being able to share what you want on the internet, right? Is like, go ahead and feel free to put out an education.
Put out your own thing. Don't go and poop all over somebody else's. And that's the nice word for it. But
that's all. PSA. That's all.
That's what Sarah went off. Dr. Sarah, because she was here when my podcast with Alec went up, and somebody commented under the podcast with Alec, oh, she's so irritating because she says and her public speaking is terrible. Hopefully she'll read this and change. And I wrote underneath it, oh, incorrect. I'm not going to change how I show up online because of a stupid comment from an anonymous person on YouTube, but thanks anyway. And then Sarah went under. she lost her mind and she's like, where's your YouTube channel? Trolls. And she just like, I can't even repeat what she wrote under this comment. It was so funny.
I'm gonna
She
go
was
look at
like,
it.
if you don't like how she talks, then where's your YouTube channel with your public speaking so we can all learn from you? I'm like,
I know. Oh, geez, humanity.
it's a tough gig.
It's a tough gig. We might end this because I got to roll. I got to get kids to school. We might end this speaking of Marcel Vogel with a Dr. Vogel quote: "Love is the glue that bonds all matter in the universe."
I love it.
Well, I mean, right?
It.
I mean, it's true. Love is
true.
love is the fundamental substance that you can call God, the ether, right? Again, semantics, don't care about semantics, but it truly is the glue that bonds everything together. So if we can come back to that moment of like,
yes,
if you think you want to say something nasty, just pull back, right?
And that's why we do what we do. And I think that's why this is why I started doing what I do, and you as well, and why we've connected and why we do so much synergistic stuff is that we come from a place of wanting to help people, wanting to give information that we wish we had and that we wish that we could give family members, friends. And so it comes from a place of love. We're not coming here to scare anyone or upset anyone. It's from a place of love. And that's where I do everything. From everything I create 100%. Comes from that place. And I definitely haven't done it perfectly over the last 5-6 years since I've been online. I've definitely made mistakes, but underlying, that's where you and I both come from, is this place of love. So
totally. No, thanks for putting it that way. I feel the exact same way. And it's true. It's like, we truly view this ultimately as a service. I mean, we like chatting. It gives us a chance to chat with each other, but also we view this as like, putting out information, right? Like you said, we love sharing stuff, and we have learned so much over the course of the past, however many decades we've really been with fitness. We've learned so much that it doesn't serve me to just have it all in my brain. It doesn't serve you to have it all in your brain either. And so we might as well share from our perspective. And if it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay.
It's okay. No hard feelings. That's what I said to the guy under the comments. I said, no hard feelings, but I'm not going to change how I talk because you made a comment under YouTube. Just FYI.
Yeah. Like, I'm not like going to like change like
I'm not going to like stop saying like, I might even like say it like more. I won't, but
No. You come across beautifully to me. So all good. You do. I feel like you need to give yourself kudos because you know how you always pin the science on me, but you know it so well. So please don't put yourself down. You've done such a beautiful job of communicating that with your community on podcasts and things like that. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Well, thank you, Carrie. I would not know most of what I do without you. Honestly, I just look up to you so much, and I think I just love everything you do. And you're a huge part of what I teach and put out there, is that I've learned so much from you. So
thanks, friend. I appreciate you. Likewise.
All right. Well, maybe next time we'll figure it out. We might talk about hormones, but.
Oh yeah. And we have Dr. Conover coming up here soon too, I think, right? So that'll be fun too. Yeah.
Okay, for grounding.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. All right.